Hello everyone. In this video, I want to talk about the endocrine system, hopefully really briefly. I know there's been a lot of videos in this chapter and a lot of information in this chapter. So the endocrine system is the system that actually communicates through hormones. And we're all pretty familiar about what hormones are. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where hormones come from and which glands produce which hormones and what effects some of those hormones have on our system. So hormones are chemical messengers. They're secreted by glands that are in the endocrine system, and they influence things like our mood, our appetite, our ability to think, and our sexual drive. We're all pretty familiar with these kinds of things, and we've heard about hormones all of our life probably. The difference between hormones and neurotransmitters is that hormones are actually released into the bloodstream, and they have much more widespread effect than the neurotransmitters. They also have longer lasting effects than the neurotransmitters. But they also act much slower than neurotransmitters as well. So there's like 7 different glands in the endocrine system, and we're going to talk a little bit about each of them. The pituitary gland is the master gland in the brain. It controls all of the other glands. It does get information from the hypothalamus or instructions from the hypothalamus, and it carries out those instructions from the hypothalamus. It secretes growth hormones and endorphins as well. So our thyroid gland and the pituitary gland is located in our brain, very deep within our brain, but it's a really important gland. The thyroid gland is in our neck, and a lot of us are familiar with people that have thyroid problems. I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens when you have a thyroid problem and some of the symptoms that you might have. So the thyroid gland regulates metabolism, growth, and appetite, and that's located in our neck. Then our adrenal glands are right above our kidneys, and they actually help activate our stress response, most likely our long-term stress response, so that continuous loop of stress response, which we'll talk about in later chapters as well. So the adrenal glands secrete adrenaline, and adrenaline is what revs us up to get us ready to respond to a stressful situation, and it's what kind of gives us panic attacks and anxiety attacks as well. Norepinephrine is what calms us down. The pineal gland is also located deep in our brain as well, and it actually regulates our sleep cycle. So you guys may have heard of melatonin. Melatonin you can buy over the counter as a medication, but it's a naturally occurring hormone in our system, so it's pretty safe and it's harmless probably to take it. But what happens is when it gets darker during the day, at night, our melatonin levels rise, and that's what makes us feel sleepy and want to go to bed. So that's why if you take over-the-counter melatonin, it should help you to feel sleepy. It doesn't really cure sleep disorders. We'll talk about sleep disorders in the next chapter as well. But your melatonin levels rise at night, and they get lower by the morning, and that's why you wake up. And the melatonin is produced by the pineal gland. And then the pancreas, you might have heard of, is involved in digestion and the production of insulin and glucagon. So insulin helps digest food, glucagon slows down digestion. So if you ever have thyroid dysfunction, if you've ever known anybody to have thyroid dysfunction, first of all, it's very treatable, and there are many different things that can cause thyroid dysfunction: age, autoimmune disorders, just other things that can happen. And so oftentimes if a person comes in with particular symptoms, the doctor will order a thyroid test, and it's a simple blood test to determine if you're having difficulties with your thyroid. So somebody that has hyperthyroid, is a little easy to remember this is because it's hyper. If you remember that term hyper, it means it's overactive. So the person tends to be really thin, they don't have much appetite, they're tense, they're stressed out, they're nervous. So that's hyperthyroid. Hypothyroid is probably what we see more commonly, and this is where your thyroid is underactive. It's not producing enough hormones, and the person tends to be sleepy, tired all the time, often overweight and depressed because they just don't have the energy or the hormones that they need. The final glands that we're going to talk about are the gonads, which are the glands that actually secrete sexual hormones. I must be having trouble talking about sex today. And they're related to sexual motivation and behavior. And for women, they're located in the ovaries, and for men, they're located in the testes. For women, the ovaries produce estrogen and progesterone, and for men in the testes, it produces androgens including testosterone. So that's it about the endocrine system, but it definitely interacts. It certainly affects our mood and our behavior, and it affects us psychologically too. So it's important for us in psychology to understand the endocrine system as well.